Hi, welcome to MadMagi. My name is Marie. I work here at Alchemists, which is a restaurant in Copenhagen. Some say that we might have to move to other planets than Earth, and we're already on our way to Mars. But what are we going to eat then? That is the topic of today's video of MadMagi. And to help with this, I have a very cool guest joining us today. Hi Maggie, I'm so glad that you could join us today. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm a designer and researcher at the Space Exploration Initiative at the University MIT in the US.
And I know that you're a guest researcher here at Alchemist. What do you do here?
My background is in design, so not only do I think about the way that things taste, but the way that people interact with food. And that's exactly what we're doing here in the development kitchen at Alchemist, where I'm working with a team of chefs and researchers to create special recipes for space exploration.
But why is it that you have to develop new recipes for astronauts?
Have you seen space food?
No.
Well, I brought some with me here today. These are some samples of NASA's space food.
Okay.
And NASA's space food is mainly freeze-dried. And the reason they do this is because it's lightweight and it lasts a really long time. And so the process of freeze-drying is that they remove all of the moisture contents to make sure that no new microorganisms or possibly dangerous things will grow in the food. Astronauts then rehydrate their food by adding water back into the nozzle. Can you guess what this one is, for example?
No.
These small beige pellets are actually mashed potatoes.
What?
So I guess when you add water, they will start to look a little bit more like the mashed potatoes that you're used to on Earth.
So Maggie, have you ever been to space and tried one of these?
No, not yet. But I have been on a very special airplane that simulates zero gravity to give you the experience of being in space. Here, I'm entering a special airplane that creates artificial zero gravity for researchers. From the outside, it looks like a normal airplane. It's also empty inside, so you can bring your project and have room to float around. When I went to that special airplane, I turned it into my space kitchen. I wanted to know what it would be like to work with dough in space. Could zero gravity inspire new shapes of bread? And I was also so lucky to wear my specially designed spacesuit, where my apron can float so I can use it as a work surface.
Wow, that looks so awesome.
Thank
and
you.
I really like your spacesuit.
Here it is.
That's your apron?
It is.
Really nice.
My special tool belt.
So why is it, Maggie, that astronauts cannot have bread in space?
Well, first of all, mixing and measuring ingredients in zero gravity would be almost impossible. Picture flour in a bowl. The flour particles would float everywhere. In space, for our special space bread, we're creating a liquid dough like this. And we insert it into a special mold like this.
So this is actually bread that you can make in space?
This is the recipe that we're trying to develop here at Alchemist, using special ingredients in these forms so that it could work in a space environment. Secondly, when you eat a piece of bread or cut a piece of bread on Earth, you probably don't think about all the crumbs.
The crumbs?
The crumbs. I can show you if you would pass me the bread from there. Now imagine you're in space where everything floats. And something as tiny as a crumb could actually be quite dangerous because if it floats up and gets in an astronaut's eye while they're performing a mission, or it clogs up an important piece of equipment. So it might seem like fun to be able to create a mess here on Earth, but in space it's quite problematic.
Wow, I didn't know that something as simple as bread could be such a challenge in space.
It really is, and that's exactly the challenge we're working on. I actually brought some of our space food bread samples if you'd like to try.
Yes, of course.
We'll just do a little bit of cleaning up.
Yes.
Here it is.
So how does this work in space then?
So this is an example of the space bread that we're developing here at Alchemist. And it's quite different. We're trying to work towards a bread that has no crumbs, so we're getting there. It's a learning process. And this bread is essentially steamed from the inside, which is how we're achieving that crumbless bread product. And so the crust, as you can see, is quite different from a traditional bread. It's not as crispy because of that steaming that we're trying to achieve. So here we can break it open and see. You can see that the bread is steamed inside. And of course, we would still like the flavor of the crust. So what we do is we add extra flavorings to the inside to give it that flavor that we love so much. So we can try some if you want. And we have this special spacey tube of butter.
Looks like a toothpaste. And then you just put it on.
You can put it right on.
Now we are eating space bread. But Maggie, this bread, it tastes a little bit different than normal Earth bread. Why is that?
That's one of my favorite questions, actually. In zero gravity, the way that we perceive taste and aroma is entirely different. Astronauts actually have fluid shifts in the body, and they experience something called space face. You've probably experienced this if you've ever had a cold and you feel stuffed up and it's a little bit more difficult to taste your food. So what we do here when we think about how to make recipes for space is we add extra flavors to try to enhance the way that food tastes to cut through that sensory deprivations that astronauts experience.
Wow, I've learned so many words today. I mean, like space bread and space face. Like, I mean, there must be so many solutions out there in the future.
It's true. There are so many challenges to creating food for space, but there are also so many possibilities and ways that we can think about creating bread and new shapes like this sphere in zero gravity. And that's what we're trying to do, is think of the challenges and the possibilities for life in space.
Thank you so much, Maggie, for joining us today, telling us about your space bread and your space project. That was really interesting. If you have any questions for Maggie, please write it down in the comment. And also remember to follow MadMagi's YouTube channel, as there are more videos coming out.